Chicago Bears. Well, they're 0-2. But guess what? They're 8-3. They're 8-1 since then. They have now forced 24 turnovers, and we're not at Thanksgiving yet. Turnovers good on a plate, not if you're serving them up on football field. Mike Tomlin knows.
We're all responsible. We know that. That game is an illustration of that. It's just tight when it's good on good, and we didn't make enough plays and enough sequences, as I mentioned, to be successful.
You don't apologize for any wins in this league, and I think that's a historic organization over there, and they got a bunch of great athletes, a bunch of great coaches and things like that. So like I said, you don't apologize, but you do understand where you can be as a team, what we could have done out there, and that's the frustrating part. And it starts with me, and it funnels down to everybody else.
Wait a minute, they're apologizing for winning 31-28. It's maybe the first team with a winning record, maybe at the time they were, but I think now it's the case. The Bears don't have to apologize for going 8-1. Caleb, I threw the ball really well. It's hard. He throws it hard, but I thought he threw very well today. Do you agree?
Not only did he throw the ball well, the command and the poise. It's been really cool to see him get better and better throughout the season. The defense has been outstanding, 24 turnovers. They lead the league in turnovers. And so when you look at the formula, we're going to rush the quarterback with Sweat. He's coming along. We're going to turn you over. We have an offense that doesn't consistently turn the football over. And you have a quarterback that's getting better and better and better. And when you look at Swift and Monangai, you see the formula for how they're winning. This is team football. The quarterback doesn't have to do it all by himself. And you saw today the difference between these two teams. Caleb Williams, accurate, consistent, throwing the football to the right guy, and Mason Rudolph just couldn't quite get that done, and that was the biggest difference in the game.
The Bears are really concerned. And look, Pittsburgh ran as a team for 186, so it's not like they shut them down.
Correct.
They're without their starting three linebackers. Now, that may continue. They have a Friday game, I believe it is, on Black Friday against Philadelphia. So, but Chicago, look, you don't have to apologize for winning. For Pittsburgh, look, they're still, they're head above water. They're 6-5, but they gambled, and I'm not saying these guys aren't. Look, the T.J. Watt can play till he's 50 if he wants to. But a lot of the other older guys, let's roll the dice this time. And I don't know that it's all paying off because Pittsburgh, they beat the Colts. I get it a couple weeks ago, but it looks like it's slowly seeping the wrong way. Is that fair to say?
Very fair. There's an old saying that water always finds its level. And when you look at the Steelers, they came out hot. They were leading the North. But even Vegas didn't believe in them. And all of a sudden now they've leveled out and they're not leading anymore. It's because the team is flawed. The quarterback position has kind of been in disarray. Rodgers, now he has the risk. Rudolph come in. Rudolph is really not a starting quarterback. If they can't run the football and the defense can't create turnovers, they're going to struggle. And to your point, the defense is an older defense. And I've been around the world a little while. You don't get fresher as you get older. And I think they're starting to figure that out right now. I hope they can come back and play well because, as Caleb said, this is one of the historic franchises. But you kind of see that this is not going the right direction.
No, I mean, they're fortunate that it's really only Baltimore. I mean, Cincinnati and Cleveland.
Exactly.
Another story, but we'll see. And they've yet to play the Ravens. They played twice. We'll get to the Ravens in a minute. Kansas City Chiefs didn't look good again. They made the turnover deep. They had penalty. It cost them a touchdown. The Colts led by 11 twice, even going into the fourth quarter. And for 3 quarters, you and I watched the game, obviously, together. They were searching for some explosives, right? They finally got them in the fourth quarter, but they kept trying. Those quick dump-offs early, it changed in the fourth quarter.
And boom, sometimes it's not about X's and O's. Sometimes it's called institutional pride. This is a proud franchise. And at 5-5, they knew today their backs were against the wall. And Patrick Mahomes, you just started to hear. When I listened to the game and I heard the names that I'm used to hearing, Chris Jones on the pressure, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, you heard McDuffie, the names that we're used to hearing with the Colts, that's when you knew that their best players were stepping up, making plays. And yes, they started to get some bigger plays later in the game. I thought the defense dominated the Colts in the fourth quarter and overtime. Colts had 18 yards. In the fourth quarter and overtime, the Colts, the best offense in football, had 18 yards. There's your ball game.
Well, part of the reason that best offensive football is the guy that leads the league in rushing, Jonathan Taylor. I thought, I didn't really know, I know some, that they would play like they did Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl. Now, if you remember the Super Bowl, the passing game of Philly clobbered him.
Yes.
Saquon didn't get his yards, a 2,000-yard back. I thought they would sell out some to keep Taylor from running wild, which except for one run they did.
Yeah.
And Jones early had that opening, but they couldn't. Okay, you're going to beat me. He's not going to beat me, and it worked for Spagnuolo's defense. You agree?
And that's what the great teams do. I'm going to take away what you do best, take your fastball away, and see if you can beat me with your secondary pitch. And I think if you're Indianapolis, you've lost 3 games on the season, and they've all been kind of fluky fashion. The Mitchell turnover, the 5 turnovers, and then today. My biggest question about Indianapolis is this, is when teams take away your best option, which is Jonathan Taylor, can you find a secondary option? And so far, they haven't been able to do that consistently. He had his second lowest rushing output of the season today. They had the ball, boom. They had the ball with the lead, 5 minutes left. They couldn't put it away.
Right.
When you have a run like that, you got to put the game away, and they didn't.
Yeah. They're 9-3, though, so again,
It's fine.
It's hardly but they'll take 9-3.
No question.
And the Chiefs,
They live to fight another day.
don't quite push them away. And, of course, the Chiefs playing at Dallas on Thanksgiving. And
That's a big one.
That will be fun. Turduckens and all. Took a while to get going, okay? It took them into the second half offensively, but they've allowed 20 or less in the last 6 games, and they win 23-10. By the way, how's this for a list? Derrick Henry, I know he had only 60 whatever, but he now has 12,294 for his career. Today, talk about a good day at the office. He passed Marcus Allen, Edgerrin James, Marshall Faulk, Hall of Fame, and look who's going to be next. Like, look who's next, Jim Brown. Like, do I need to say any more?
No, that's one heck of a list right there.
That was a number we knew as a kid, 12, 3, 12.
Yeah.
Half of Jim Brown's games, by the way, were in a 12-game season. Just so you youngsters add Jim Brown. No.
Yeah.
Half 12, half 14.
Yeah.
Played 10 years, went to the movies.
No question.
Say no more. All right. The Ravens, they're 1-5, and now they're 6-5. And by tiebreak, they haven't played the Steelers yet.
Yeah.
They're tied, but they're ahead in the division. They're not looking Ravens that we saw last year, and we talked about at the beginning of the show. Offensively, it seems like Lamar, second half, they get going a little better.
They do.
But they look like the class of the division at this point.
We said it earlier about the Steelers water finding its level. The same is true for the Ravens. Although the offense has sputtered, the running game hasn't got quite going yet. Lamar's missing practice, so he's not quite in rhythm. The offense is putting up enough points, but here's what's changed, Boom, the defense. Talk about a defense that's flipped its course. Early in this season, everybody was scoring 30 points on them. And I realize it's Tyrod Taylor and the Jets, but they gave up 10 points today. They got out to the quarterback. They're forcing turnovers. You're starting to hear Marlon Humphrey, Fitzy, and those guys are starting to make plays. And for me, that's the biggest thing. When you start to hear the names of the players that were used to making plays, your star players, I think now their defense is getting better. Lamar will come along. I think he'll get healthy. Okay. He'll start to practice throughout the week. They got to run the football a little bit better. But it's good to have problems when you're leading the North.
Yeah, and again, they opened up a 3-game homestand. New England, they've won 9 in a row. Let me just throw this out there. This is really interesting. They played, right? They played a Thursday game, so they had 10 days for this. Now they play a Monday game, a week from Monday. That'll be the Giants. Then they and Carolina are the last team with a bye. And I say that because they're going to be, and they're pretty young anyway.
Yes.
They're going to be pretty darn fresh late in the year. By the way, Patriot fans, in 2001, they had the last bye also. I'm just saying. What do we see today? Now they see teams gunning for them. They still won.
Young team went through a little adversity. The quarterback throws the pick 6. They didn't back up. You lose your left guard. You lose your left tackle. They still continue to play, and they continue to fight. And I just love, for a young team, to be able to play that way on the road. To me, that just shows you a little bit something. And I know Mike Vrabel, he wants his team. There's something in football called seasoned and hardened. This young team got a little bit more seasoned and a little bit more hardened today, and it'll pay them well. It'll pay dividends in the postseason because it's simple math now. Boom, they're 10-2. I mean, we can start talking magic numbers here pretty soon with this team because of how well they played. I don't want to hear about the schedule. It's the NFL. They're playing who is on their schedule. But for them to win and the quarterback to continue to work through adversity, I thought this was a growing step and a win today for them.
And they're going to be rested.
No doubt.
Don't anybody overlook what we just threw out. Wow. You know what? The Giants don't have a good record. They're fun to watch, whether it's the young quarterback, Jackson Dart, who's still concussed, Jameis Winston, but Detroit wins. So everybody holds serve atop that division.
Yeah.
The Bears win, the Lions win, and the Packers win. There'll be a lot. And they haven't played against each other a lot this year. There will be a lot of that coming up. All right, where do we want to begin here? There was 1,000 yards in that game, okay? Each team had about 500. I think the Giants had 5 and a little bit, and the Lions 494, but you get the point. So offensively, I don't see a problem. By the way, what was the number? Just want to give it here. Of course, I can't find it. 264 from scrimmage for Gibbs, rushing for 219. Only Barry twice in team's history of more than that.
And remember when the head coach took over play calling? Everyone wondered why. Johnny Morton was the offensive coordinator. Now Dan Campbell is calling plays. The offense has more life. It's more explosive. Jahmyr Gibbs is now back to being a featured part of the offense. And the offense can put up points in a hurry. The big play is back. That's the thing that we knew for when Ben Johnson was there. It was the big play. It was the creativity. It was getting touchdowns on the board. And now that Dan Campbell is back calling the plays, you're seeing that. Defensively, I think they'll get better, Boom. Aiden Hutchinson is still healthy. Barnes is still healthy. The secondary has got to get a little bit healthier. However, when you can score points and are as explosive as they are, they can beat anybody. Now, when they get in these big division games down the stretch, the defense has got to be a little bit better. But I think if you're Dan Campbell, the move to him calling the plays is paying off.
The defense has to get better, and the offense is as good as there is.
No doubt.
The Packers, conversely, their defense doesn't have to get much better than that. I don't care what the ranks are. They're one of the tops, and you saw it again. Minnesota learned the hard way. Offensively, they're still almost like we got the seatbelt on. Not the shoulder strap, but the seatbelt. They can't quite get out of the chair. You know, that's kind of, they're good and they're winning games, and they should be a playoff team,
But you just wonder if the defense gives up a few points, can the offense match? Defensively, Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator, is outstanding. Michael Parsons, Rashawn Gary, Wyatt, boom, they got 5 sacks today. J.J. McCarthy, I promise you, is seeing ghosts. He thought they were playing with 13. That's how good they were. Offensively, to your point, like Jordan Love just, it's like something is missing. Now, granted, they were without the tight end. He's not coming back this season. The tailback Jacobs wasn't there, and they're missing their starting center. So I understand you're missing some players, but when you play a quarterback, when you pay a guy $52 million, you expect him to make and make everyone around him better. And I think that's your point. He's not doing that right now. He seems to be a part of the issue. In order for them to win a championship, because the defense is championship ready. It is.
Yeah. Oh, God, yes.
The quarterback is not. And so is there enough time for him to get there between now and the tournament?
Fans of both teams will keel over when I suggest this.
Okay.
Can we get a merger if you had the Lions offense and the Packers defense? I'll give you a Super Bowl champ.
I'd bet
I'm just saying.
I'd bet on that team.
I'm saying it real quick. J.J. McCarthy, you can tell he hasn't seen much action, and they're teeing off.
If you look at it glass half full, boom, you say he's only played 7 games. If you look at it glass half empty, you say he's played 7 games and they've all been the same. A couple of moments, but for the most part, very, very inconsistent.
Most that any team has had the last couple of years, and the Browns, the Cleveland Browns, they win at the Raiders 24-10. Shedeur Sanders, Cleveland quarterback, making his first start for the team. He's on a very short list, as in, I think, for a lot, the new Browns, 1.
For me to be prepared to go out there and execute, like from a summer standpoint, that's how life is. You know, everybody's not in the best situation, you know, but it's no excuse. You got to go out there and perform. Like, there's no choice, there's no question. Nobody cares if this was 1 week of prep. Who cares? You know, so a lot of people want to see me fail, and that ain't going to happen.
They've honored their fallen teammate with 2 wins. The one on Monday night against the Raiders, and this one against their arch rival Eagles, who they lost to the opening game. Philly is 8-3 in Dallas, 5-1, heading into Thanksgiving at home against Kansas City. So we thought at 21-0, you know, if they lose to the Chiefs, we're going to goodbye Dallas, and not, as our good friend Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend.
And talk about momentum. Down 21-0, you and I both were like, Then all of a sudden, momentum started together. And I can't tell you what a difference these receivers make. When you have Pickens and Lamb together, 13 catches, 221 yards. That's what they combine for. And they are a problem for any defense to deal with, because if you say, I'm going to take away those two receivers, Javonte Williams can run the football. This offense is as explosive as they want to be. And I thought Philly, the biggest problem with Philly, when you get a 21-0 lead, boom, you're supposed to run the football. They still can't run it. Saquon Barkley, all season long. 2,000 last year, not so much this season. And you saw the flaw of the Eagles. They had to continue to throw the football. But the Cowboys and the combination of Dak, George Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb is a problem for everybody in the league.
As good as that defense has played by shackling Detroit and Green Bay recently, 21-0, not closing the deal. Even though Dallas offensively is as potent as anybody, that's a head scratcher. Look, the defense will never go 17 for 17. You know you played on great defenses. But they're not going to be happy.
When it's 21-0, at that point, you're supposed to close it out. And I thought the lack of pass rush up front and the ability on the back end, they got some people hurt. When you start looking at the people on the back end, they didn't quite cover. They had problems dealing with those receivers. And if you can't cover them and you can't rush the passer, it's going to be a problem. But you're right. Vic Fangio and his defense will be highly disappointed.
Unusual. It won't happen much?
It won't happen much, but it happened today.